The following are based on true stories.
It was 2 in the morning, and I was driving on a road called Jayuro, close to Seoul. The night was dark, and the streetlights were few and far between. The fog was so thick that I could barely see ahead. The air smelled wet and heavy. No wonder there were so many bad accidents, mysterious deaths, and weird stuff happened here. My hands felt clammy on the wheel. It felt like the fog was not just around my car, but inside it. Something just felt wrong. I kept driving, the fog thickening more and more. My car engine made a low humming sound, like it was talking to the fog. Everything else was quiet, too quiet. I tried to turn on the radio or even play something on Spotify. I got no reception of anything, just static noise. Weird. It was like the world had hit the mute button. Then my headlights hit something, a shape in the middle of the road. I squinted, trying to see what it was. It looked like a person, but who would be out here, in the middle of the road, covered in fog? As I got closer, the shape started to get clearer. I could now see it was a woman in a long white dress, standing still like a statue, her dress waving in the wind. I tapped the brakes and came to a slow stop a few feet from the figure. Honestly, I was a little angry and annoyed. Why the heck was she standing there in the middle of road at that hour? "Hey, are you okay?" I yelled, rolling down the window just a crack. No answer, just an eerie silence. Her body didn't move an inch. The figure was facing away from me, her long dress almost blending in with the fog. Something about her seemed off, way off. I considered driving around her, but I wanted to make sure that she didn't need help or something. I put the car in park and stepped out. The ground felt cold and damp through my shoes. But there was something else in the air. Something rotten. Taking slow steps, I approached her. "Miss, are you lost?" Still no answer. But as I got closer, I noticed she was wearing what looked like sunglasses. My gut was telling me something was very wrong, but I couldn't put my finger on it. My feet felt like they were stuck to the ground, and my heart was beating faster and faster. Summoning all the courage I had, I reached out to tap her on the shoulder. The second I touched her, she turned around. My hand froze in midair as I stared into this nothingness. Where her eyes should have been, there were just 2 dark, empty holes. I felt my soul being pulled into the void. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. Instead, an inhuman, guttural sound echoed around us, filling the foggy air. My ears rang, my vision blurred, and my legs buckled. I collapsed to the ground, gripping the damp earth as if it were my lifeline. Still staring at the empty road in disbelief, my heart pounding. I sprinted back to my car. I slammed the door shut and was about to hit the gas when I caught a glimpse of something in the rearview mirror. There she was, sitting calmly in the back seat with the 2 dark, empty holes where they should be in her eyes. I froze, my foot hovering over the pedal. I was trapped. The air in the car felt colder, and that rotten smell intensified. Then, she spoke. "Could you give me a ride home?" Her voice sounded hollow, like it was coming from far away. I don't know why I did it, but I nodded, probably out of panic. I could see an address flash on my GPS, a location it had picked up automatically. It seemed only a few miles away. I was too scared to say anything. So we drove in silence. I forced myself to glance at the rear view mirror one more time. She was still there. Her skin was unnaturally pale, almost translucent. The black holes where her eyes should be seemed to deepen, turning into voids that could swallow light itself. The edges of her mouth twitched upward into a half-formed smile. The GPS finally announced that we had arrived at our destination. I looked at the GPS screen. It was a cemetery. Just as I was about to tell her that she had arrived, I turned back, and she had already vanished. The story gained public attention when Korean celebrities like Park Shin-hye, Park Hee-jin, and Tak Jae-hoon shared their own experiences with the mysterious woman during TV interviews. The ghost, it seemed, was haunting the road in an attempt to hitch a ride over and over. Ji-yeon had always been a sucker for horror movies. The more terrifying, the better. It was a Friday night, no work the next day. She found herself at home, lights dimmed and wrapped in a blanket, as she delved into a chilling tale of ghosts and unsolved mysteries on her TV screen. It was late. Suddenly her doorbell rang. Who the heck could it be at this hour? Ji-yeon was thinking to herself. Little did she know, her life was about to imitate the very horror she loved to watch. Ji-yeon cautiously approached the door, peering through the peephole. A man with a bouquet of colorful flowers stood on the other side, looking slightly disoriented. She unlocked the door and cracked it open, keeping the chain latch secured. "Can I help you?" she asked, puzzled. The man looked up, his eyes meeting Ji-yeon's. "I have a flower delivery, but I think there might be a mix-up. There's no specific name on the order, just this address." "It's late on a flower delivery, isn't it?" Ji-yeon said, eyeing the man skeptically. "Yeah, I know. I'm so sorry. Could I come in for a second to verify the delivery info? I think there's been a mix-up, and my system isn't updating. Maybe you could help me sort it out." Ji-yeon hesitated for a moment, but eventually relented. She unfastened the chain and let him in. As he stepped into the living room, the movie she had been watching played in the background. Ghostly screams echoed from the TV speakers. "Creepy movie," the man said as he set the flowers on the coffee table. "I'm Min-jun, by the way." Ji-yeon returned to her sofa without offering her name. "So, what's the story with the flowers?" Min-jun shrugged. "Could be a wrong delivery, or maybe a surprise gift from someone who knows you. Either way, I'd like to sort it out." As he was fiddling with his phone, "Do you know about video Nasties?" he asked, without looking up from the phone. But his eyes were gleaming. "Video Nasties? What's that?" Ji-yeon asked, with a bit of unease. She wasn't even sure that she wanted to know. "Yes, they're videos where the murders you see are real. No special effects or camera tricks. Everything is horrifyingly authentic and live," Min-jun elaborated, his voice dropping to almost a whisper. A sly, self-satisfied smirk spread across his face, as if he were relishing a secret only he knew. Ji-yeon was disgusted. "That's sick. Why would anyone watch something like that?" she said. It was at this moment that Ji-yeon noticed the delivery man pulled out a camera from his bag. A faint red light was flashing. Her heart sank. A camera? Was he recording this? "People have their reasons," Min-jun replied cryptically. Ji-yeon knew it was time for him to go. "Well, it's getting late. Whatever it is, you need to do it outside," she said, trying not to let her growing apprehension show. Min-jun ignored her prompt and continued to work on his camera. Ji-yeon picked up her phone, pretending that she got a text, but secretly trying to call for help. Min-jun lunged, knocking the phone out of her hands. The room turned into chaos as struggle and terror ensued. The next morning, a neighbor noticed that Ji-yeon's door was opened. She walked in and saw that Ji-yeon's living room was a mess. Pillows were tossed off the couch. The coffee table was flipped over. Things were scattered on the floor. The TV was on. As the neighbor walked further into the bedroom, she saw Ji-yeon's body lying on the bedroom rug. Her eyes were wide open and full of fear. Ji-yeon was dead. Somewhere in the dark corners of the internet, there was another successful streaming of video Nasties. On his first night as a security guard at the undisclosed high school, Jayuro felt a mix of excitement and apprehension. As he clocked in, the previous guard gave him a rundown of his duties. He was handed a small sheet of paper, bullet-pointed with various instructions. The last bullet caught his eye. "No matter what you hear or see that's unnatural, keep walking." Jayuro chuckled. "Is this some initiation joke for newbies?" he asked. The previous guard's eyes met his. "Just follow the rules," he said, lacking any hint of humor. As Jayuro began his rounds, he shrugged off the ominous warning. The high school had its quirks, the flickering lights, the creaky floors, and an unsettling silence that blanketed the hallways. But Jayuro wasn't one to be easily spooked. It was 10 p.m. when Jayuro noticed a light coming from classroom 302. Against his better judgment and ignoring the last rule on his list, he decided to investigate. Jayuro gently pushed the door open to find a young man engrossed in a textbook. The student looked up, surprised. "Oh, I didn't realize it was so late. I lost track of time," he said. "Understandable," Jayuro said, eyeing the diligent student. "How about I walk you to the gate?" As they walked through the dimly lit hallways, Jayuro tried to strike up a conversation. "So what's your name?" The boy hesitated, then answered, "Seojun." "Working on a big exam, Seojun?" "Just trying to catch up," Seojun replied cryptically, not meeting Jayuro's eyes. The next morning, Jayuro was sipping coffee in the faculty room when he decided to bring up the previous night's events. "Had a late-night scholar in 302 yesterday. Kid named Seojun was burning the midnight oil," he said to Mr. Kim, the classroom's teacher. Mr. Kim's eyes widened. "Seojun? That can't be right," Mr. Kim said, his voice shaky. He paused and looked away, as if he was struggling with whether or not to say what came next. After a heavy sigh, he finally spoke. "Seojun. He's not with us anymore. He passed away a month ago, and it happened right in that classroom." Jayuro felt as if the room was spinning. He'd spoken to a ghost, walked it to the gate, and now he couldn't shake the feeling that Seojun might never leave. His thoughts raced back to the rule he had neglected to follow. That day, Jayuro quit his job, too haunted by the chilling reality he couldn't deny. Meanwhile, in the same faculty room, another new guard was handed the sheet of bullet-pointed instructions. "Just follow the rules," the previous guard told him. "No matter what you hear or see, that's unnatural. Keep walking."